With Tom Telesco now in the building, the Las Vegas Raiders are a good drafting team. It's funny hearing draft experts praise the Raiders' picks instead of criticize them. Most of his picks had either good value or value they were supposed to have. There were no colossal reaches for need. Drafting need over value gets you Cleveland Ferrell, Jonathan Abram, Damon Arnett, and Alex Leatherwood. Neither of those guys were ever found to be useful to the Raiders. Raider Nation got to the point where they were considering not watching the draft anymore. This year is obviously different. The Raiders were even rewarded for sticking to their board with good players that fit a need falling to them. They have a developmental pick with major upside too. The Raiders took Brock Bowers in the first round, even with Michael Mayer at tight end, because he was definitely the best player available. Telesco didn't give up the farm for a QB or reach for an offensive lineman or corner. Instead, he got a player that was ranked in the top 5 to 7 overall at number 13 overall. And at the same time, Telesco got the Raiders a generational talent. Bowers is going to be about as dynamic a tight end as there is in the NFL barring injury. At 6'3", 243 pounds, he's a speedy tight end running a 4.5 40, and he also has a 40-inch vertical leap. And with all that, he runs great routes, so he's a true vertical threat tight end. He also runs well after the catch as he makes guys miss and breaks tackles. Many like to compare him to George Kittle, but only in the passing game. Bowers is physical and can block, but he doesn't have the length Kittle has to handle guys at the line of scrimmage. He'll probably be more of an H-back or a move tight end as far as blocking goes, and since the Raiders don't have a fullback, he'll line up there at times too. He's a playmaker that can line up anywhere. The Raiders were rewarded for taking the best player available in the first round with who fell to them in the second round. The Raiders needed an interior offensive lineman, and center Jackson Powers Johnson was right there for him at number 44 overall. Many had a late first round grade on him as a center, he was so dominant. The Raiders just signed Andre James to an extension, so Powers will play right guard, where he also played at Oregon. The 6'3", 330-pounder is a road grader, a lawnmower, a path maker. You know what I mean. The hole's going to be open. And at the same time, he hasn't given up a sack over his entire college career. At center, I believe Powers would be in the mold of traditional centers like Jim Otto, Dave Dalby, and Don Mosbar. But money talks, so James will stay at center with Powers to play right guard. He fits the mold of Richie Incognito there. He's a nasty boy that isn't quite done when the whistle blows. He's trying to finish each play with you on the ground. When the Raiders called him while making the pick, he said, "I'm going to whoop some ass for you, I swear." DJ Glazes was taken by the Raiders in the third round, where he was projected. Third rounders start sometimes, but Glazes is here to bring depth and competition. I haven't done my homework on him yet, but the word I've heard on him so far is that he may have to kick inside the guard. At 6'5", 315 pounds with 34.5-inch long arms, he has the right build for a tackle, but I keep hearing he doesn't have the feet. To play tackle in the NFL, you have to be a dancing bear, and to a person, every media scout I've heard says he is not that and will be a guard in the NFL. They say he can be beat with speed and inside with counter moves once he starts oversetting. Yeah, that sounds like a guy that should be moved to guard, so they might want to move him there. It's also possible that they see something they can develop into a better tackle. One thing he's shown over his college career is the ability to play on either side. Therefore, the Raiders just might have found themselves a swing tackle. Of course, Darren Munford would be the first one to move the left tackle if Colt Miller gets hurt. He did a really good job in Miller's stead last year. In round 4, the Raiders took corner Dian Richardson where he was valued. When you get to the 4th round and lower, you're generally dealing with a developmental player, and that's exactly what Richardson is. He's not your average developmental player, though. At 6'2", 188 pounds, he runs a 4.3 40. His vertical is pretty average at 35 inches, but he has 32.5-inch long arms, which is excellent. He obviously isn't there yet, which is why he's a 4th round pick in the first place, but he can be developed into something special. That speed and that arm length can make him a great bump and run corner if he can learn the finer points of bump and run coverage. Well, Richardson actually needs to learn the finer points of coverage, period. It all starts with him being a little too high when he's in his back pedal. His route recognition isn't quite there yet either, but the Raiders didn't draft him to play off man. Again, if the Raiders can teach him how to play bump and run coverage, he'll be a solid corner in the NFL at the very least. But with all the speed and length that he has, I'm thinking he could be something special. In round 5, the Raiders got a guy that was projected to go in round 5. Linebacker Tommy Eisenberg isn't an athletic freak or big-time playmaker, but he's tough, physical, and smart. He's a studier, so when he has to go into a game, he won't embarrass himself. In the 6th round, the Raiders took Dylan Lobb to match his projection. He's a good depth piece that can play Amir Abdullah's role as a third down scat back. He's a good route runner with good hands. He played in the slot in college too, so will the Raiders use him there? With their first 7th round pick, the Raiders got safety Trey Taylor, another pick that matches his projection. At 6 foot, 213 pounds, Taylor has good size for his position, but he's a depth piece at best. With all the safeties the Raiders have, he's going to have to make it on special teams. And for their second 7th round pick, it looks like the Raiders got themselves a bit of a steal. Corner MJ Devonshire was a projected round 5 pick, but went in round 7. At 5'11", 186 pounds, he's a fluid athlete with 33-inch long arms. I'll be checking for him. Man, that was a crazy draft. Not crazy because it was crazy because it was abnormally good. We Raider fans aren't really used to good drafts. We're not used to the commentators praising the picks either. We're used to them saying, "What are the Raiders doing?" That's because there weren't any bad reaches. Telesco stayed true to his board. Glazes in the 3rd round might not have lined up with the consensus, but it wasn't a bad reach. But Powers in round 2 and Bowers in round 1, the Raiders really killed it with those 2 picks. Needless to say, I love this draft. Way to go, Telesco. Thank you for watching. See you next time.